So we're dealing with prophetic history. We'll be dealing with the second chapter of Daniel. And we're doing this because of all the commotion that has gone on in the world over the last 2 years and all the confusion and concern that's taking place. Everybody's concerned about the current state of the world and the current state of the economy and where everything is heading. Now, I'm coming at this from a biblical perspective, as I would have said. And, there are many different views. There's astrological views and different denominations and churches have different opinions on where everything is heading. And, there's people who are superstitious and Freemasons and all these different schools of thought. I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but we'll just move forward. Now, in the second chapter of Daniel, Daniel is in Babylon. He's in captivity. Nebuchadnezzar is the king. Now, Nebuchadnezzar has a dream, and he forgets what the dream is. And he calls for his magicians and his wise men and his astrologers and his sorcerers to explain to him the meaning of the dream and to tell him the dream, because he can't remember the dream. But he knows there's something, odd about the dream and he wants to remember it. And of course, these people, they can't provide any answers to him. They're saying, you need to tell us the dream first before we can give you interpretation. Of course, he gets a little perturbed, Nebuchadnezzar, and he gives them some ultimatums and say, you need to come up with the goods and give me the information that I require of you. And they still weren't able to do so, and the next thing he did was to threaten them with death. And all these people are being rounded up now by the king guards, and Daniel and his associates, they get caught up in the commotion, and they too are under threat. So Daniel requests audience with the king's guard and the king, and he is trying to figure out why are we caught up in this mess, why we have to be in this mix-up. So of course Daniel offers his services and he requests some time so he can figure out what's going on and pray to the God that he serves, which is the God which is the creator, and the God of the Hebrews. And he goes in and he gets the interpretation of the dream in a vision that he himself, Daniel, had. And of course, after this, he blesses God and thanks God. I believe you can find that in verses 20 to about verse 24, where he goes through and he acknowledges that it's God who has explained all of this and laid out the vision for him. He then, there's an interesting part in verse 27, I believe it is, where he, says to the king, can't, your sorcerers and your magicians, can't they explain the vision to you? Just a tongue-in-cheek comment by Daniel there, but they couldn't. And, he ends up being the one to explain the vision and recounting the vision to Nebuchadnezzar, and basically, ends up putting everybody else in a good position because their lives were under threat. Now, by verse 35, well, verse 31 to 35 is where Daniel explains the vision. Of course, the vision is of an image or a statue, and it's made up of different metals. So I'll try to put a clip in here so you'll have a visual aid as to, what that could have looked like. So of course the head was of gold, the chest and arms were of silver, the loins, the belly and the thighs were of brass, and the legs were of iron, the feet and toes of iron and clay. Now, it's important to note that the differences in the metals of the image. Each section of the image is a different metal. So that's an important note right there. That will be important for future discussions. Now, Daniel gives him the interpretation, gives Nebuchadnezzar the interpretation, and tells him that he is the head of gold. So Nebuchadnezzar would have been the head of gold, and he's told that he's a king of kings, and he has a big kingdom, and yada yada yada, right? So he's told after that after his kingdom goes down, basically a next kingdom will arise, and that kingdom will be inferior to him, and that kingdom will be the kingdom of silver. And after that kingdom, a next kingdom will arise, and that kingdom will be a kingdom of iron. And after that one, a next kingdom will arise, and that will be a kingdom of iron and clay. Now, note the difference in the last kingdom that's mentioned, the kingdom of iron and clay. Interesting. We'll speak about that in later discussions. Now, you could infer from history the kingdoms that line up after the kingdom of Babylon. Babylon is a legit kingdom. It's in the history books. Everybody knows about Babylon. And based on these being successive kingdoms, one after the other, that one kingdom is taking over the previous kingdom. And based on that information, you could, with just that information alone, pinpoint the kingdoms that Daniel is potentially referring to. But pundits and the critics will say, no, you can't apply it like that. But there's enough information there. However, you'll notice an interesting thing in the book of Daniel, in that Daniel keeps having visions. He doesn't just stop in Daniel 2. He keeps having visions. And we'll realize that the visions he's having, he's actually going over the same time periods or similar time periods. And the visions are just showing different details of what is happening. And by going through each vision, you'll be able to pinpoint each kingdom or the succession of kingdoms. And we're going to have a really good idea of where we are in history. Because in probably about verses 44 or so on, it talks about the stone coming and hitting the image and crushing everything, and that stone representing the kingdom of God, and God setting up his kingdom that will last forever, and nothing will be able to tear down that kingdom. So you know that this, from a biblical perspective, this is taking us all the way to the end of this world's history. So that's what we're dealing with. So what I'm saying is that the visions of Daniel and also the vision of Revelation is taking us all the way to the end of time. So we can basically pinpoint where we are in history based on the biblical information and a correct interpretation of these prophecies we find in the Bible. So that's it for Daniel 2. So I won't list out the kingdoms here. We know that Babylon is the head of gold. But when we go through the other chapters, we'll then list out everything, and we'll basically compile all the visions together, and we get a full picture of what is going on.